Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, karibu. If you're coming back, thank you so much for coming back. Please remember to subscribe to this channel and click the notification bell so that you'll be notified when we have new content. So today I want to share with you my 5 favorite tips. The tips I use to grow the best tomatoes ever. Research shows that tomatoes are the most common plants in most gardens, and most families in the urban centers use tomatoes at least once in every day for a meal. So tomatoes are quite common and they are versatile and they are used for many things. They can be used for sandwiches. You can preserve tomatoes by making tomato paste. You can use them to just cook sauces or paste. Whatever you do with your tomatoes, you need to grow great ones. So today I'm giving you my 5 tips of growing the best tomatoes ever. So first of all, I'll show you a trick that I learned when I was starting to grow my tomatoes. One thing that I never knew is that a tomato really doesn't want to stand up. It's us who makes it grow vertically. So tomatoes are naturally vines. They will grow on the ground if you left them to be. So if you look closely to the stem, you see hairs. All these hairs are supposed to be roots. So when you leave your tomato to lie down, all this will form roots and the tomato will keep going and it will take over your garden. So the first tip when you're growing tomatoes, always stake your tomatoes. Have a good trellis, have a good cage, have a good strong trend to make sure your tomatoes go up and they do not take over your garden. Tip number 2 is plant your tomatoes deep. So as I've just said that all these are roots, and so you want all of these to be below the soil level, so that when you plant the tomato, all this develop root system and your tomato is strong. And also it's a way of letting your tomatoes absorb more nutrients and more water from the soil, and so you have more produce from that tomato. Tip number 3 is that tomatoes are heavy feeders. So you need to fertilize your tomatoes. And here I'll share with you my favorite DIY fertilizer or manure or whatever it is that I use to grow my tomatoes. So that's, this is, I don't know what it's called, but it's the leftovers of omena. You can use actually omena itself or fish, but I find this very, very economical. So for every plant, I just put a handful of this. I think locally they call it chonga. So I put it in the hole before I put my tomato, and that is a good quick start fertilizer for your tomato. Another thing you can use as a fertilizer for your tomato is an egg. You can bury an egg just before you put in your tomato, but obviously I don't have eggs to waste, so I am not going to bury any eggs. But when I have eggs in the incubator and they don't hatch all of them, all the remaining ones, I use them in my garden. And if I have a chance to have those ones when I'm growing my tomatoes, I bury them just before I put the plant. So I'm going to plant this one as a demo so that you can see what we do with it. So here I'm going to use my garden tool. This place has been resting, this garden bed. So I'm going to dig deep as you can. Go as deep as you can go to make sure that your tomato is planted really, really deep. You want it to cover all the way up to here. So I'm going to pinch off all these leaves, all of them. All the way up to the crown. Just be careful that you don't break the main stem. Then I'm going to put my fish wherever inside the hole. Then I'm going to remove my tomato slowly. And then I'm going to cover it up with the soil all the way. So ideally it should cover up to the last stem. So what I also do, the other thing I do is that I leave a trench around here so that when I water this tomato from the ground, the leaves don't get the backsplash, because that backsplash is going to make these leaves get diseases, because tomato leaves are very, very delicate. So this is another tip I use. So I water my tomato. Right now it's raining, so I'm not going to water this one, but I water it from here, and I water it like twice a week, and I water it very deeply. So you need to put enough water here to go as deep as possible for the roots to go deeper, so that to get more nutrients, and that way you get a stronger tomato plant. So the next tip is I use these cages. These are DIY cages, just a normal mesh that you could get in the hardware, and you just roll it round and just put it around the tomato. So that's how this tomato is going to be staked by this cage. I had grown some beans over here, and these are the remains. So finally what I'll do is I'm going to grow marigold flowers all around here, because marigolds help to repel nematodes, which are root diseases of tomatoes. So I'm just going to put my marigolds over here, like 3 or 4 of them, and then I'll be watering my tomato over here to make sure that it doesn't get water on the leaves. So that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you have tips that you use to grow your own tomatoes, please remember to share them in the comments below. Thank you so much again for coming. Always remember, if you have a vision, add some passion. I'll see you in the next one.